Imagine a world where a single act of kindness could save a dying man's life. But years later, that same man, now a powerful billionaire, denies ever knowing his savior. What happens when pride meets destiny? What occurs when the river of life remembers what men choose to forget? This story will shake you to your core. Stay tuned as we uncover the mystery of Chief Obidike and the beggar who held his fate in trembling hands. Don't forget to subscribe if you're just joining us, and give this story a thumbs up. Now, let's begin. The golden gates of Chief Obidike's mansion gleamed under the afternoon sun. Inside, music thundered and laughter echoed. The richest man in the land was celebrating his 50th birthday. Guests arrived in expensive cars, dressed in silk and gold. But outside those gates, a different scene unfolded. An old beggar named Nana knelt on the dusty ground, his clothes torn and faded. His hands trembled as he called out, "Chief Obidike, please, I must see him." The guards laughed. "Move away, old man. This is not a place for beggars." But Nana did not move. His voice grew louder. "Tell him Nana is here, the man who fed him by the River Odu." The crowd of guests turned to stare. Some whispered, some pointed. Then the gates opened, and Chief Obidike stepped out. His face was hard as stone. He looked at Nana with cold, angry eyes. "I do not know you," he said. "Take him away." The guards dragged Nana into the dirt. As thunder rumbled over the river, Nana whispered, "The river remembers." Many years before, life was very different for Obidike. He was not a chief then. He was not rich. He was a young man, hungry and alone, walking through a small village by the River Odu. His clothes hung loose on his thin body. His feet were bare and bleeding. He had traveled far, searching for work, but found only rejection. That evening, as the sun dipped low, Obidike collapsed near the riverbank. His stomach burned with hunger. His throat was dry as dust. People walked past him without stopping. Some laughed. Some spat. But one man stopped. His name was Nana. He was a poor yam seller, barely surviving himself. Yet when he saw the dying stranger, his heart softened. Nana knelt beside Obidike and offered him his only meal, a small bowl of yam porridge, still warm. "Eat, my brother," Nana said gently. "Today I feed you. Tomorrow, when you rise, feed another." Obidike ate with tears in his eyes. When he finished, he gripped Nana's hand. "If I ever become rich, I will never forget this kindness." Time passed like water flowing down the River Odu. Obidike left the village, determined to change his fate. He became a trader, buying and selling goods along the coast. He was clever, ambitious, and ruthless. Within 5 years, he struck a deal with foreign merchants that brought him immense wealth. Gold poured into his hands. His name spread across the land. People began to call him chief. He built a mansion by the same river where Nana once fed him. He filled it with servants, guards, and treasures from distant lands. One evening, as he stood on his balcony overlooking the River Odu, he whispered to himself, "I have conquered fate. I owe nothing to anyone." But far below, by the river's edge, an old woman washing clothes muttered under her breath, "The river remembers kindness, and it remembers cruelty." Her words drifted on the wind, unheard by the man above. But the river heard, and the river began to watch. Years later, Nana returned. He was older now, weaker, his back bent from hardship. Life had not been kind to him. His yam business had failed. His family had scattered. He lived by begging, moving from town to town, searching for scraps. One day, he heard stories of a great chief named Obidike who lived in a mansion by the River Odu. The name stirred something in his memory. Could it be the same man he had fed all those years ago? With hope flickering in his chest, Nana made the long journey to the mansion. When he arrived, he was shocked. The boy he had saved was now surrounded by gold, power, and pride. Nana approached the gates humbly, carrying a small calabash filled with river water. He knelt and called out, "Chief Obidike, do you remember me? I am Nana, the man who fed you when you were dying." Obidike looked down at him with disgust. He laughed coldly and tossed a handful of coins at Nana's feet. "Drink your sorrow from that calabash, beggar." As Nana walked away, One coin rolled into the calabash. The water inside turned black. That night, something strange happened. Chief Obidike's mansion trembled. Servants woke to the sound of cracking earth. By morning, the chief's vast fields of yam and cassava had withered completely. His prize cattle lay dead in the dirt, eyes wide and empty. Panic spread through the household. The chief's workers gathered at the well to draw water, but when they pulled up the bucket, they gasped. The water was dark, thick, and foul-smelling. No one could drink it. The villagers began to whisper, "The River Odu has rejected him. He has angered the spirits." Chief Obidike refused to believe it. "Superstition," he muttered. "Find new wells. Buy new cattle." But that night, as he lay in his bed, he felt something cold against his skin. He reached under his pillow and pulled out a single black coin, the same one he had thrown at Nana. His hands trembled. Outside, the river flowed quietly, but beneath its surface, something ancient stirred. The river remembered, and it had begun to act. Desperate and afraid, Chief Obidike summoned Mama, the most respected seer in the land. She arrived wrapped in white cloth, her eyes sharp and knowing. The chief led her to his private chamber and showed her the black coin. Mama held it up to the light. Her face grew pale. "This coin carries the mark of forgotten kindness," she said slowly. "You have rejected someone who once saved your life." Obidike's jaw tightened. "I owe no man anything." Mama shook her head. "The river does not lie, Chief. You must find the man you wronged and make peace before the next full moon. If you do not, everything you have will crumble." Obidike's pride fled. He snatched the coin from her hands and smashed it against the wall. The coin shattered into pieces. But as the fragments hit the floor, a faint whisper echoed through the room. "The river remembers." Mama backed away, fear in her eyes. "You have made a terrible mistake, Chief." She left without another word. Within days, disaster struck again. Chief Obidike's fleet of ships, carrying goods worth millions, was caught in a sudden storm. All of them sank. His warehouses, filled with rice and oil, caught fire in the night. No one knew how it started. And then, his only son, Kenichukwu, fell gravely ill. The boy burned with fever, his body weak and shaking. Doctors came from the city. Priests came from distant temples. But nothing worked. Kenichukwu's condition worsened. One night, as Obidike sat beside his son's bed, the boy's eyes opened halfway. His lips moved, whispering something. Obidike leaned closer. "Father," Kenichukwu whispered, "a man in rags stands by my bed. He is holding a black calabash." Obidike's blood ran cold. He looked around the room, but saw no one. Yet the air felt heavy, as if someone unseen was watching. Outside, the River Odu roared louder than it had in years. The villagers locked their doors. They knew the river's judgment had begun. Chief Obidike could no longer ignore the truth. His empire was crumbling. His son was dying. His pride had cost him everything. In desperation, he disguised himself in plain clothes and set out to find Nana. He searched through slums, markets, and temples. Everywhere he went, people whispered the same words. Kindness cannot be bought, only returned. Days passed. Obidike grew weaker, thinner, haunted by guilt. Finally, he returned to the River Odu, the place where it all began. He walked along the muddy bank, calling Nana's name. But there was no answer. Then, near the water's edge, he saw something that made his heart stop. A pair of torn sandals lay beside the river. Next to them was a small piece of cloth with words written in charcoal. "The river took me, but not my spirit." Obidike fell to his knees, weeping. He had come too late. Nana was gone, and with him, any hope of redemption. News spread quickly through the land. Chief Obidike had fallen gravely ill. His body grew weak, his mind haunted by visions of the beggar he had rejected. Doctors said it was guilt eating him from the inside. But the villagers knew better. It was the river's curse. Obidike, knowing his end was near, made a final, proud decision. He would hold a living funeral, a grand ceremony to prove he still died as a king. Invitations were sent. The richest and most powerful people in the land were summoned. The mansion was prepared with gold decorations, food, and music. But as the day of the funeral approached, strange signs appeared. The sky darkened unnaturally. Thunder rumbled, though no rain fell. Birds circled the mansion in silent flocks. The river's waters rose higher than they had in decades. Servants whispered among themselves, "Something is coming." On the morning of the funeral, the gates opened. Guests arrived in their finest clothes. But none of them noticed the figure in white standing silently at the river's edge, watching. The funeral courtyard was filled with mourners dressed in black and gold. Chief Obidike lay in a grand coffin draped in silk, his face pale but still proud. His widow sat beside him, weeping softly. Priests chanted prayers. Drummers played slow, mournful rhythms. Then, without warning, the music stopped. A hush fell over the crowd. People turned toward the gate. A figure in white rags, face veiled, walked slowly into the courtyard. The guests gasped. Who would dare interrupt a chief's funeral? Obidike's widow stood, her voice sharp. "Who are you? How dare you enter here?" The figure stopped in the center of the courtyard. His voice was calm, quiet, but it carried like thunder. "I'm the hand that once fed your master." The crowd froze. Whispers spread like wildfire. The figure reached up and slowly lifted his veil. Though his face was pale, almost ghostly, there was no mistaking him. It was Nana, the beggar, the one they thought was dead. Obidike's eyes shot open inside the coffin. As Nana stepped forward, the ground beneath the courtyard began to tremble. Cracks appeared in the stone tiles. The River Odu's waters, which had been rising all morning, suddenly surged forward, flooding the courtyard. Guests screamed and stumbled back, but the water moved with purpose, flowing directly toward Chief Obidike's coffin. Nana raised his hand, and the water stopped. His voice, though soft, filled every corner of the courtyard. "Chief Obidike, you turned your heart to stone. You denied the man who saved your life. You threw coins at kindness and laughed at mercy." The crowd stood in stunned silence. Obidike, still lying in the coffin, gasped for breath. His hands clutched the silk cloth, his eyes wide with terror. Nana continued, "The river gave you everything. It carried your fortune. It blessed your land. But you forgot the source of your blessings." The water began to swell around the coffin, rising higher. Obidike's widow screamed. But Nana raised his hand again, and the water stopped once more. "Now," Nana said, "the river will cleanse what greed has defiled." Chief Obidike, weak and trembling, crawled out of the coffin. His fine robes were soaked with river water. His face, once full of pride, was now twisted with fear and regret. He fell to his knees in the rising water, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Forgive me, Nana," he choked out. "Forgive me. My pride drowned the man you once saved. I became blind to the kindness that gave me life." The crowd watched in silence. Some wept. Others covered their mouths in shock. Nana looked down at the broken man before him. His expression softened, but his voice remained firm. "The river remembers both sin and sorrow. Chief, confess to the water, not to me." Obidike bent forward, submerging his hands in the dark water. He spoke through sobs. "River Odu, I have sinned. I denied the man who fed me. I forgot where I came from. Forgive me." Slowly, the black water around his hands began to clear. The darkness lifted, replaced by crystal-clear water that reflected the sky. The crowd gasped. The river had heard, and it had answered. Nana turned to leave. The water began to recede, flowing back toward the river. Chief Obidike, still kneeling, reached out desperately. "Wait, please, stay. Let me repay you. I will give you everything I have. Gold, land, anything." Nana paused. He looked back over his shoulder, a faint, sad smile on his lips. "You already have, Chief. My hunger long ago fed your destiny. That was always the plan." Obidike blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" But before Nana could answer, a bolt of lightning struck the ground near the river's edge. The flash was blinding. When the smoke cleared, Nana was gone. Only a white cloth remained, floating gently on the surface of the water. The crowd stood frozen, staring at the spot where he had stood. Some whispered prayers. Others fell to their knees. Chief Obidike collapsed onto the wet stone, his body finally giving in. His breathing slowed. His eyes closed. The river's judgment was complete. The man who had forgotten kindness had finally remembered, but it had cost him everything. Chief Obidike died that evening, peacefully, his face no longer twisted with pride. The villagers carried his body to the River Odu and buried him beside an unmarked grave, a grave that locals said belonged to Nana, the beggar who had once saved a dying man. As the sun set, the river glowed faintly under the moonlight. The water, once dark and angry, now flowed calmly, as if satisfied. That night, a fisherman returning home saw something that made him stop in his tracks. Two figures walked across the water, side by side. One was dressed in fine robes. The other wore rags. But they walked together, equals, their footsteps leaving no ripples. The fisherman rubbed his eyes, but when he looked again, they were gone. He told the story the next morning, and soon everyone in the village knew. The river had claimed both men, not in punishment, but in balance. Kindness and pride, poverty and wealth. They were all the same in the eyes of the River Odu. The river remembered everything. Years passed. The story of Chief Obidike and Nana became a legend, told by elders around fires and whispered in markets. The mansion by the river was abandoned, swallowed slowly by vines and time. But the lesson remained. In the village by the River Odu, people began to treat beggars differently. When a stranger arrived hungry, they fed him. When someone asked for help, they gave it. They remembered the words Nana had once spoken. Today I feed you. Tomorrow, when you rise, feed another. And so the cycle continued. Kindness flowed like the river, unbroken, unending. The River Odu still flows today, carrying with it the memory of a beggar who saved a life and a billionaire who forgot. And on quiet nights, some say you can still hear a voice whispering from the water. Never despise the hands that once fed you, for life's tables always turn. So I ask you now, what would you do if the beggar who once saved you returned when you had everything? Would you remember? Or would you, like Obidike, let pride drown your soul? Share your thoughts below.